I will tell you that had I not been in a place of desperation, I may
Mhm.
not have ever taken these risks. That if I hadn't, been in a place where I looked at that number and said, there's no way I'm going to be able to retire on this. I am not working, until I'm 80 so that I can make ends meet and eat mac and cheese for the rest of my life. Yeah, definitely did not want to be in that camp. But had I had, the comfortable life that I had mapped out a retirement. I had mapped out that my husband would work so many years and that I was freelancing graphic design from home so that I could keep an eye on my parents and my children at the same time. And between the two of us, we were building a comfortable life. But if that hadn't been, rug pulled, if that hadn't been pulled out from under us, I don't know that I would have ever applied myself to learn this.
This isn't financial advice. Past results are not indicative of future performance. Do your own research. Welcome, everybody. I've got something really exciting to share with you today. I had the opportunity to sit down with one of the most naturally gifted traders I have ever met, MopBot's CoinOps. She started in trading and investing just a few short years ago, and in that time has gone from being a complete novice to outpacing my own gains by many multiples. She really gives us something to aspire to. She's filled with so much wisdom. She has just the right temperament and personality. And on top of all of that, she has such a big heart. She works to get new people into trading and investing to take the reins of their own financial future. She runs a group for women in investing. And there is so much, whether you're a new trader or a seasoned pro, that you can take from this conversation. I hope you enjoy. Here's MopBot. Miko or Mops, tell me, you have a very unique screen name, MopBot's CoinOps. Tell me the backstory of that. Where did that come from?
Okay. So MopBot started because I felt like I was living a pre-programmed life. And MopBot is the robot that is always doing the things that it's been programmed to do. It Nobody looks at it like it has any hopes or dreams. It's just, always there and always ready to clean up after everybody and take care of everybody. But what my big passion was art, and I wanted to be creative, but my parents wanted me to go to medical school or architecture school or become a lawyer because my mom was an immigrant, and that's what immigrants expect their kids to do. And so long after that, it was always just job, earn, take care of everybody, and then job, earn, take care of everybody. And yet, I wanted to create. I wanted to do art. And I knew that I had a bigger life for me than just cleaning up after everybody. So, yeah, MopBot's workshop was actually my art classes and my art studio where I created. And so when I first started doing the investing stuff, never in a million years did I think it would take. It was just some interesting little rabbit hole that I went down for a little while. So when I came to profile names, I just used one I already had, which was MopBot. And then it became all about crypto. And that's where MopBot's CoinOp came in because I already had a workshop for the art. But yeah, just to set it aside from the art stuff, it was MopBot's CoinOp. But yeah, it's all about being able to reach for something more than you're programmed to do. If you're a daughter, there are more things that you can do just than daughterly things. If you're a mom, there's more to you than just being a mom. There's a whole person, a whole heart and soul in there. And if that is investing and crypto and trading, then yeah, more power to me for being able to, break out of being just a wife, just a mom, just a girl, just, a woman who's trying to be more than just gender. And yeah, that's where that came from, is just wanting more, wanting bigger things in life than what your programs, like the Matrix, wanting more to life than just the Matrix you're stuck in.
I absolutely love that. And you have been exceptionally successful with it. I think you give us all something to aim for. And what you said about coming from a creative background, I want to just take a little U-turn to focus on that because I've noticed that there are quite a few creative people in the community that do quite well with investing, but that's not the stereotypical person you would think that would be drawn to investing and trading. Like, how do you think being a creatively minded person has helped you on your journey?
Most definitely. And I talked about with James too, is that when you're looking at these charts, I mean, being creative was great when I was in school. Math class was just a little bit harder for me than other classes. But when it came to charting and geometry, I could see where the numbers and the pictures came together. And that's kind of where I was with all this charting too, is looking at the different types of candles and looking at the prices as they move and the way the psychology of people makes these move in different directions. And then I'm finding out that, there are patterns in the movement of money that have been around since the beginning of trading. Not trading like the stock market trading, but like people on camels trading with rice and coins. There's a certain way the price moves, and that wasn't something I was aware of before. But now that I'm really looking at charts all the time, I can see the movement, and yeah, you can identify patterns in the shape and the size of the candles and how strong it moves in one direction or another. And yeah, especially you start splashing colors across the chart too, you can really start seeing patterns evolve.
Yeah, and I guess there is. Sorry, I'm just making one up on the fly, but like when I was running my business, always like, oh, I hate business development. Like this is not why I got into a creative field. Until I started thinking about it as a game, and I was like, oh, there is something creative to this. Like, how do you break through to get someone's attention, to get them to want to chat with you, that sort of thing. Sorry, this might not be a great question, but how do you, I guess, see yourself applying your creativity to what you're doing in the charts, whether it's researching what company or crypto to invest in, or actually your day-to-day trading?
You know, I know that there is always more to these charts, and it's kind of like trying to find the pictures within a pictures, looking under different layers, finding companies, making that leap, and just using your imagination to see where could this go. Especially for like fundamental analysis with a company. I just heard the other day that you should take a few minutes every week to dream and dream about where the world is going to be and what this new world needs. If we're all flipping to AI, what is that new world going to look like, and who's going to be left out, and what are real people going to need, once this happens? So yeah, it's being able to see beyond just the price movement, beyond something being expensive or cheap, or what stock to buy today. It's looking into the future, looking back into the past and seeing how those patterns might overlay and fit into the future. Um, Basically just imagination. Yeah.
I think that's really great what you just hit on there. Is that projecting of where things are going to be, especially at a key turning point. It's like, okay, the internet revolution comes about, or even on a smaller time scale, when COVID happened and everybody was locked at home, what's life going to look like? And what does that mean for what we're doing as traders and investors? And as James always says, where is the puck going to be? So yeah, for AI and all that disruption, what is life going to look like in 2030 and
Yeah.
2032? And what does that mean for the choices we make now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for people in China, when such a shortage of young people, the need for robots is there.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where they're developing. And it's the same for us. If we're not having children at a rate that gives us a big enough population to take care of the Gen Xers, the Gen Z kids, yeah, we're going to need something more, and we need to put our focus, our strength, our money where the technology is going to go. And for me, yeah, I do believe in the robots. And my husband is anti-robot because of that. But I'm more of Camp Baymax, with the Disney's Baymax robot is kind of where I'm at, and I think Optimus can be that for old people. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I see. But my husband's imagination is very different from that. He sees the Terminator coming. So yeah, we have some differences of opinion on where our projections take us. And
Mm-hmm.
deal with that on a case-to-case basis.
Yeah. Well, and I think you hit on something else there, personality wise. I've seen that folks who are generally more optimistic do a little bit better in investing than the pessimistic folks.
Well, I think the optimists definitely pick ourselves up after a stumble a little better than the pessimistic folks.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if we're just thinking about it like from a binary perspective, markets do generally tend to float up. So if you're optimistic about the future prospects of something and you're willing to take the leap over a long enough time frame, it should work out.
It should. And most of the time it does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes you just total aside, but uh, trading on a longer term time frame with IADSS, it saved me from myself on the downturns where I would
Yeah,
get scared and I would want to sell out, and I would say no, just trust the charts, trust that it's going to turn around, or if we're in this trend that this is just a correction. And it kind of
right.
saved me from my own emotions and being able to like stick with the thesis over a longer time horizon.
It's true. I do like that it's math and not hocus pocus. It is true math. It's really just geometry and numbers, and you can't make it up. You can't hide things in price actions. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of manipulation out there, but you can see it in the charts just like you can see Bitcoin transactions on the blockchain. It's all there. You just have to open your eyes to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really want to get into the meat of the conversation, which is what's holding people back from investing or how they can take that first step, because that's really the goal of this. It's like I want people to see your incredible story and journey and think like, oh, I can do that too. I can take the reins and take control of my future and empower myself to take this big step. But before we do that, can you just tell me a little bit about your journey so everybody gets a feeling of where you came from? I mean, I think you and I are both similar that we came to investing later in life. We had some financial challenges to overcome. So yeah, just tell me a little bit about how you got started on this amazing journey.
No, absolutely. Basically, I was just living my life, doing the best I could. Married, 3 children, parents living in the same town, and the sandwich generation. And so I was very busy. And as long as things were moving along on an even keel, I knew we had debt. I knew we had expenses coming up, but I didn't worry too much about it because there was always income coming in. Um, until there wasn't. And we were 45 years old when my husband got 100% disabled through an injury at work. And when he stopped working, I knew that our retirement was in trouble because we were still supposed to have an extra 20 years to save for retirement. We were nowhere close to, being able to retire on the funds that we had. And we had to take a long, hard look at how we were going to make ends meet, not just today, but 20 years, 30, 40 years in the future. And so that's when I really started looking into other ways. Tried starting my own business, didn't work. Went back to work. I knew that, my wages just weren't going to be enough to cover what we needed in the future. And through a fortunate bit of luck, I met somebody who was into crypto and helped me figure out how to buy my first crypto on an exchange, and discovered Bitcoin, Solana, how to trade bleep shit coins. And fortunately, I found James. And James was very calm, so full of hope for the future. He was able to illustrate in very, very solid terms, in very solid numbers, what you had to invest in today to be able to afford a retirement tomorrow, which was exactly what I was looking for. What can I do today to make tomorrow a little brighter? And what I loved about it was that he showed that you could get in on with a low income, even low allocations at the beginning, and just build a little bit at a time. So fortunately for me, I had James on video. I had my janitor friend at work who kind of would chum up with me about crypto, and I was able to do deep dives on YouTube and figure out where I needed to be and how I needed to buy crypto, invest, and get where I'm going. And then I didn't have a network. It's not like I knew how to do any of this before that, but it was enough to get me started. And once I got started and I could see the small successes building up, I knew that this was going to be the way. This was going to be the way I was going to be able to fund a, a decent retirement. And all I was looking for was just something that wasn't destitution at its worst. Yeah, I just wanted to be able to keep a roof over our heads and keep us fed and afford medical bills in the future. Never in a million years did I think that it would happen so fast, that it would happen at this scale, that the trading was very successful. And I'm able to, if I wanted to retire today and live very humbly, I could. I could. But now I've got bigger dreams than just retirement. Now I want to take care of the people around me. I have dreams of building an art and music workshop that I can have people come and do art, create music, record music, um, like a community center. And yeah, just bigger dreams than just, a meager retirement. It's trading and investing and being aware of financial future has made it all possible.
That's amazing. Yeah. And quickly for the audience who don't know who James is, James runs a channel called Invest Answers that I'll link in the description. But both Mops and I use his indicators for most of our trading. So, what were those early steps like? Because, well, okay, I guess just to give people a picture, because I don't want to say like, this is how much I've made, but with that small sum that you started with, could you give us like a rough figure to orient to, like over 4 years, I was able to grow it by X amount or something? Or what do you think
Yeah.
is a good way to frame that?
Yeah. Well, over 4 years, I was able to, let's say, take a sad little, take a sad six-figure number and 10x it.
That's really impressive. And I think the big question is because when people approach investing, there are a lot of fears, but somehow you were able to jump in and you were like a fish in water with it, at least seemingly from the outside. I didn't see every day. But from my perspective, it's like, oh my gosh, she really took to this and was able to run with it. Like, what were those early days like? And how did you transition from just dabbling in a few poop coins to
Yeah.
really doing this seriously?
So yeah, it would seem now, if I look back on it, it does look like it was so simple, and how cool it was that I was able to put $22 into Solana, or start with a little bit of Ethereum and work my way to where I am now. But there were a lot of stumbles along the way. The cool thing about it was, because it was crypto and not real dollars, not real money in an investment account that I was trading, it felt more like a video game. Yeah, if I could buy it a little bit high and buy it back a little bit low, even if I only made, $7 in the trade, I would get really excited because it felt like a win. And yeah, I did that over and over again. I didn't know it was called spot trading back then. I was just like, oh, I bought it low and sold it high, and then I can buy some more when it comes back down. And yeah, it was just stacking coins, stacking Solana, stacking Ethereum. I mean, I was into things like Loopring and Mana, and bought ADA. Sorry, James. I bought ADA way back when. And then um, as I learned more about it, as I learned more about trading the coins and watching, coming across Invest Answers and watching his very reasonable approach to allocations, I slowly shifted out of over trading on crypto tokens and studying charts on real assets. And that was a big shift. That was a big shift in mindset. And again, that took it from feeling like a video game to the real world when it started affecting our investment account. Because at first, the first almost first 6 months to a year, I was only trading crypto. I hadn't thought about the investment account. I hadn't thought about the retirement account. I just knew that crypto was a way to grow money without putting more money in. I could just trade the same crypto over and over again and make it grow. That was illuminating. That was a big, light bulb moment. Um, so yeah, that's where it started. And when I listen, it was a thing where I could listen to different YouTubers every day, and some of them are just really high energy, high strung people that are all like, buy this coin, okay, sell it, buy this coin, now sell it. Um, Invest Answer's approach was more of a long-term approach and how to hit retirement, hit these goals, very specific numbers. And he would even tell us how he got to these specific numbers. My favorite segment was Octa, on-chain technical analysis. It was all about the math that came together to make these things possible. And it was a big deal for me to be able to take over this retirement account, which up till now had only been managed by professionals. And these professionals said that, give us your money, give us your paycheck allocations, your employer will match it to a certain percent, and we're going to make it grow for you. And they hadn't made it grow. And so when it dawned on me that I could put those in, I could take control, I could take the reins on those investments and move them around myself. It was really scary. That was scary because that was real money. That wasn't crypto, fun money. That was real money. And it took some getting used to. It took a lot of discipline, a lot of studying to be able to learn to read a chart, to trade on signals on a chart, to trust the signals on a chart, because anytime it would go up and it would start turning and you would get this little signal that says, okay, it's time to sell. And I would be listening to other YouTubers going, this is going to the moon. It's not time to sell. I'm going to miss out if I sell it now. And yeah, it's just a lot of internalizing and really making it a part of your mindset and behavior. It's one thing to know something, and it's quite another to act on it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, that was a lot of discipline. So it wasn't as easy as it looked, but it did happen fast. Um, it took about a year and a half to take that meager retirement account from the low six figures up to a 10x, which puts it in seven figures, and seven figures is enough to retire on. So it took a year and a half to get there. I traded aggressively during that year and a half. Once I figured out I could do it, I mean, it's like getting a Mario Brothers video game for the first time. Is once you figure out how to play it, you keep playing and
Yeah.
you want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think you hit on something important there, that you were able to trust the charts rather than what a dumb YouTube personality was saying. And I think
Yeah.
because we're emotional creatures, it's hard to rely on the numbers and this graph instead of someone giving you all the reasons why this thing is still going to 100x from here. But you were able to parse that out and say, no, this data is telling me something different. I'm going to trust that and just continue working with these trends.
And I still get FOMO. I still, you know, try to want to buy things, chase things when they're rising, and kick myself when they're falling if I haven't taken my profits or whatever. That emotion is always there. I don't know that I'll ever be separate from it. I'm just an emotional creature. I am. Um, but yeah, it was a big deal to be able to trust these, and just like that 2 plus 2 will always be 4. You know that when certain signals come together and certain chart elements come together, that it's going to be a turn, a change, a trend change, or time to sell out of something. And it will always, one of the things that I loved once I got my head around it is everything mean reverts. Everything always comes back to center. It will dip, it will go up, it will oscillate around the center, center average, but everything always goes up and down. So if you sell There's always going to be a point at some point in time where you're going to be able to buy back in. It's not a forever once and done thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, nothing keeps going up or down forever in one direction.
Not forever. For longer than you like, but not
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, sometimes those extreme trends can last longer just to make you sweat. Um, but there was something very important you touched on, which is everything being a pair and swapping between assets. I think it's good for us to pause on that for a moment because so many people who haven't invested or are new to this, they don't realize that you can just trade your assets around to grow them and to make money. They think, oh, I only have $5,000 or $10,000. That's not going to do anything in the market. And then I buy this stock and I have to wait 30 years for it to go up. Well, if you have $10,000 of Tesla, I mean, maybe you could just share part of your I'm sorry, not perp trading. We don't have to get into options of perp trading. Part of your just pair trading story and how
Yeah.
you swap things in your portfolio to grow those respective bags.
So yeah, pair trading is my jam. Pair trading is what I do. Um, when I first learned how to work the stock market to my advantage, stock market and crypto, it was always just buying something low and then selling it high for cash. And then you hold that cash as it drops back down and then you buy it back again. But one of the trades that I'd heard mentioned that was just intriguing was the Tesla and MicroStrategy pair trade. Now, anything can be a pair when you're trading things, even if you're just spot trading Solana and dollars, Solana's a pair with a dollar. So whether you're pairing something with dollars or pairing Solana to Bitcoin, everything can be a pair. But some pairs are more profitable than other pairs. And I've heard it called the pair trade of the century. But Tesla being pair traded with MicroStrategy has been incredibly lucrative. And what happens is when MicroStrategy, if you chart them as a ratio, so if you put MicroStrategy price divided by Tesla price and you chart where that takes you, what happens is when MicroStrategy gets expensive, Tesla gets cheap. So you sell that expensive MicroStrategy and you buy cheap Tesla. And you hold that cheap Tesla as it goes up in price and MicroStrategy comes down in price. And so when that happens and you hit a bottom, you sell the Tesla that you've been holding to buy MicroStrategy. So you've profited as MicroStrategy price came down by selling Tesla, and then you swap it again. You buy not Bitcoin, you buy MicroStrategy, and as MicroStrategy gets expensive again, Tesla's getting cheaper. So you sell MicroStrategy, the expensive MicroStrategy at the top of that chart, and you buy cheap Tesla. And what happens here is you can't be interested in having a low cost basis if you do this because you keep trading it back and forth, your cost basis goes up. This is a strategy for increasing the number of shares of MicroStrategy and Tesla as you trade your way through time. And this is a you the last pair trade I did just closed this morning. I was able to in 1 week take a 66% gain in the number of shares of MicroStrategy just from trading MicroStrategy and Tesla. And if you do these trades over and over again, sometimes you can get 10 or 12% returns on the trades. Sometimes you're looking at 50 and 60%, 70%. And one time, I think there was 231% increase just over one trade because both assets are very volatile. And if you're holding cash, you're not getting as much volatility on the cash side. But if you're trading this very volatile MicroStrategy against a very volatile Tesla, then you're getting profits in both directions from their movement. It's really, really lucrative.
Yeah, you've really inspired me to do this more in my retirement account, and
Oh, it's awesome. I
yeah,
love it.
and the idea of pair trading. I mean, I think when I first wrapped my head around that a couple of years ago, that was a big unlock for me in my investing, where it's like, okay, you don't need to measure everything against the dollar. You can measure it in the number of shares of something and you can rotate one asset into another. So this I was doing it very simply. I wasn't, pair trading as actively as you, but I always like to look when I'm selling out of something, okay, what's another chart I've had my eyes on? And this is the rudimentary version that has great fundamentals but hasn't run yet. And I can rotate these shares into many more shares of that thing that has more potential upside.
Yeah.
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 Cool. So I don't think many people take to investing quite as quickly as you. I don't know what it is, but you seem to have the right temperament and personality for it, which is great. So before we get into your investing group, what was the turning point for you from learning all this, realizing that I have a talent for this, and then transitioning from, I suppose, student to teacher to instructing more people in how they can take control of their own financial future?
So I don't know. The part of it is just my personality. When I went to university, I didn't, my parents are disappointed. I didn't go be a medical doctor and I wasn't a lawyer, but I did study psychology with uh with a focus on social psychology. And my trajectory was going to be a social worker because I was always, it's part of my personality to want to get everybody in a better place, to, pull people out of misery and help them find their way. Um, and it's part of what I'm doing now is because I've been so blessed. I just have. I wouldn't have found all of this on my own. I had to have help. And if it was YouTube, if it was, my janitor friend just being willing to share what he does on the side with me. There's always people along the way who add to my success. And if I can be the person to help other people, I want everybody up here with me celebrating. And I'm happy to celebrate those wins. If they can get up here, and I can give them the clues, leave the breadcrumb trail so that they could follow, so that they could find it too, then yes, that nothing would make me happier than to have all these people be able to fund their retirements and their dreams because I could translate a chart for them or teach somebody how to read the signals on a chart. That's amazing to me. And that's what I'm doing now, really.
Yeah. Well, and it's very much needed. I can't remember the exact statistics, but a couple of weeks ago I saw a chart that I think it's over 60% of Americans don't have enough saved for retirement. It might even be higher than that. So it's really something that's needed.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think too, and it's a shame that all of this isn't taught in schools from a young age. We teach
Mm-hmm.
math, we teach English, we teach, I think fitness and art and stuff is getting moved out of the school system into extracurricular activities. But I think personal finance and just economics in general needs to be more of a focus for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And many people don't have it. Like I was telling you, I had well intentioned parents and they always worked for themselves and they were entrepreneurial. And so they instilled that in me, but they knew nothing about investing or personal finance. And I felt like, gosh, there's just this big gap that they had that they weren't equipped to pass on. Yeah.
Now,
Go
I
ahead.
have to say, for all of that going on, these are just people doing the best they can. They did
Yeah.
do the best they could with what they knew and the situation they had. I mean, my parents too, they didn't have internet. They didn't have
Mm-hmm.
YouTube to help them find the way. I'm so glad that I did. But yeah, there's no one place that says, okay, everybody should know this.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
up to everybody out there to figure out this is useful. This is going to change your life for the better.
Yeah. And I suppose maybe the optimistic take on that would be the tools weren't there even 20 years ago. It was so much harder to trade. You had to call up a brokerage, and then for retail, for the longest time, the fees were so high, everything was slow and took long to settle. And now it costs next to nothing and everything's instantaneous and you can trade after hours and the education is online. So, yeah, maybe it will be different for the generations coming up now.
It's true. A lot of things have come together to make it easier for us.
Yeah.
Kind of scary to think where it might be in 10 years because AI is going to take over all the trading. The trade bots are going to rule the stock market, and we'll see
Yeah.
what happens. But
I
in the
mean, like,
meantime, here we are, grabby hands for all the profits we can get.
yeah, the only thing that I'm hopeful for, because I think that will definitely happen, and I mean, we see all the high frequency trading bots already, is that if everybody is relying on those, and quick aside, Robinhood, they announced these 3 new features, and one of them is your own investment advisor, but essentially it's just like an AI bot that invests for you in certain
Really?
stocks. But maybe there's opportunity for the creative folks to take advantage of that. And it's like, okay, if the bots are all doing this one strategy, what's the area to take advantage of if everything's moving in one direction?
That's one of the things about this pair trading. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I've said I like about this pair trading is that it's not something everybody's doing. It's not like it's very complicated,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody's aware of it. And so two things. If you look at crypto, you have a lot of manipulated markets. And if you look at Tesla, it's manipulated in its own way. MicroStrategy, being Bitcoin adjacent, is manipulated in its own way. But because they're two very separate, uncorrelated assets, they're not manipulated together. The volatility runs in different directions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and until everybody finds out about it, and thanks a lot. Now everybody's going to know, and our trade is ruined.
No,
But
don't worry. Only like 50 people watch these videos. So
well,
if
maybe
you're,
60 watch
yeah,
them this time. They
yeah,
won't
if you're
ruin it.
getting in early, this is great for you. Keep the secret.
Yeah, absolutely. This is your chance to get in on this trade before everybody learns about it.
Yeah. So, in the coaching you do, I'm sure you work with a lot of people who are at different stages of life, different personalities. What are some of the hurdles for folks? Is it the technical? Is it the terminology? Like, what's holding them back most to take this leap?
So I have to say, most of the people who come to me, because I am in the tier of beginner people, all the people who are just getting into this, is a lot of them have never traded a stock. A lot of them have never even bought a stock. They don't know what a brokerage account is. Um, so we have people coming in who just don't know where to start. So tell me what I have to do. Is it enough to have $100? Do I need to have $100,000? Where do I start? And so we have to go over things like personal finances and what's affordable to them and how much should be put away and how much needs to be invested for future savings, for future investing. So that is at the basic level. And then at the next level is we don't know who to ask. We don't know who to ask for this information. And even if I have the entire World Wide Web at my fingertips, even if I can just click away and find all the answers, we don't know if they're scam answers or if they're real answers or who's on the other side of whatever article they read, if it's just a thinly veiled ad for a financial advice service or
Mm-hmm.
if it's real advice. So there's a lot of that going on. And then there's people who think there's too much math to really be able to get started. The math is complicated. Um, and I've had to tell people if you can balance a checkbook, if you can reconcile your checking account, you can start.
Yeah.
Eventually you might want to learn more math. Eventually you might want to expand and learn bigger things. But if you just want to invest and just want to make some simple trades, you don't need to know complicated math. If you can do sixth grade math, you can do beginning trading. In order to do some of the more complex trading, you might have to have middle school math.
Mm-hmm.
So, have that in mind. But you don't need to understand quantum physics and calculus to be able to do basic trading.
Absolutely. I mean, if I was to break it down, I think spot trading is obviously the most accessible, and then
Mhm.
the kind of pair trading you're doing, rotating from one asset to another, and then maybe perp trading is next on the ladder, and then options trading is probably the most complex. But if you find the right community, like I didn't know options trading before. This is going to sound like a commercial for the Invest Answers community. But until I found people in there who just helped me, pass some of the hurdles of the things I didn't understand with how options are priced and expiries and entries and exits. It just felt daunting. But once you have someone explain it to you, then and you can wrap your head around it, it becomes a lot more approachable.
Well, unless you're me, then you have to take 4 or 5 runs at it because options are complicated. And until everything clicks, I still don't have the confidence to do a lot of options. I've made most of my profits just doing basic trading and arb trading.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm working on it. I will be able to do options and I'm going to grasp it, but I haven't yet. And
I,
so
I
I
think don't
think
distract
everybody.
yourself from what's working. You found a system that's getting you great returns. I would ride that train as long as you can.
Yeah, well, I think this one has at least 4 or 5 years left. I think there's in Bitcoin until it becomes so big that it
Hmm.
really gets bogged down and held hard, that it's going to have this volatility for the next 4 or 5 years. Tesla's going to have be volatile for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a few years of trading left in this. But again, if the returns start diminishing, then we rotate. We go find something else that hasn't finished running yet, and we start trading in those.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. Okay, before I move on to the next one, I just want to highlight one thing you said. For anybody who's new to trading that's watching this and is following YouTube personalities, if they're shilling something super hard or trying to sell you on something, don't put as much weight onto what they're saying. Like the reason I love James, I mean, granted, he sells the indicator packs now, but this started just because he wanted to help make this accessible for folks and he wanted to empower people. And I think that's still the core of it. And, the indicators are obviously an extension of that to give you better tools. But find the people who are doing this, like MOPS, that really just want to give back, and help people discover the same things we did. Anyway, enough of my PSA. Let's keep going.
All
so,
right, we're good.
so you have your coaching, but you also have a women's group that you run, which I think is great because statistically there aren't as many women in investing. I guess tell me a little bit about the group and what do you see that's holding women back generally from investing in as great a number as men do, at least in Western culture?
Well, okay. So I'm doing we're calling it the Lady Traders Club, and it's something that I had started talking about with K8 at Invest Answers some time ago, but really only been implemented this year. And twice a month, I have a session where everybody can sign up and come in. And it was gonna start out as just a support group. I had imagined that it might be 10 or 12 ladies because I'm always hearing we're 91% male in this group, and we're not going to have that many ladies, but there are a lot of lurking ladies with very gender unspecific, gender neutral profile names. And it turns out it was just going to be a support group with some trading tips. My sessions with 100 seats available have been booked up months in advance, 2 months in advance every time.
Really?
All the seats are reserved, and the response has just been overwhelming. There are a lot of women in there looking for information, for answers. And the biggest thing I hear all the time is, number one, I don't know where to start. None of my friends do it. I don't know anything about it. And there's just no support for women who want to learn these things. That being said, all the information is out there, but there's so much of it that, again, is scammy or unreal and untrustable that it's hard to know who to listen to when it comes to this stuff. And one of my goals is to build a rapport with a lot of these women that come to these sessions. There are so many smart women in there, and it's they're not investing. The reason they're not investing isn't because they're incapable of it. A lot of it is because other obligations take up a lot of their time. Many are working full time. We have dual income families now, especially the way inflation has raised prices. It's really hard. You don't see too many families now with just a single earner. It takes a dual income to run a household. So we have women who are working full time jobs, raising children, taking care of parents, managing households. Also church groups and doing their arts and crafts on the side, whatever it is that takes up women's lives, take up women's lives. It's really full. And so when you try to add something like investing for the future in there, it's one thing if you just say, okay, you're going to DCA into it, just put a couple $100s a month into an account. That's different, but really paying attention to investing and making your money grow with the right assets, with good allocations, and then taking that portfolio and trading within it to make it grow, that takes a lot of time and that takes a lot of focus. And when you're juggling these, 100 other things every week to survive and get through your week, it's not even just like one more thing. It's like you're juggling little tennis balls and racket balls and golf balls, and then somebody throws a bowling ball in the mix. You're just like, I can't handle this one big thing. Um, Without some help. Now, if you learn how to handle it and if you grow your trading and investing strength and find the people who can show you how to manage all of this and do it in a way that doesn't interfere with the rest of your life, then that's a different ball game. And that's what we're trying to do in the Lady Traders group. There are some women in there who can sit in front of their charts and who can really deep dive into trading and learn how to do it full time. There are others who are managing too many other things to be able to watch charts for more than a few minutes a day. And what we're doing is finding the strategies for each lifestyle. We're finding the trades, the strategies that work for the busy mom. We're finding trades that work for people who have more time to put into it and who has, who can play that video game for 5 to 6 hours a day. We have trading styles for them too. And we're learning about the different risk levels for different trading strategies and what it takes to be a swing trader, what it takes to be a long-term investor, who's a scalper and who's a day trader, and why shouldn't you be day trading in a regular account? Number one, because if you're not certified to do it, then you get dinged from your brokerage for trading too many times during a week. And you can ask me how I know, but I know. So yeah, it's a lot of times, and most of the time it's not because they don't have money to do it. Most of the time it really is just the focus and not having people to go to with questions.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of true in life. We kind of are influenced by our closest circle, and that, paints our worldview and our hobbies and our interests. And if you don't have that influence to help you grow in this, it's very difficult. But it's wonderful that you've made that space for people. And I love what you said too about the different strategies for where people are at in life and how much time it takes. I think it's important for folks to realize, like, investing and trading doesn't mean you're glued to your screen and charts all day, every day. You can build the right strategy, and you also have the tools in TradingView, like we were talking about before we started the interview. I set alerts at certain levels, and they, maybe I'll look at my charts in the morning because a lot happens when the market opens. But beyond that, I have my alerts, and it's like, oh, okay, go pay attention to this thing that popped up, but you don't have to be stuck there.
Right, right. I say all the time, I check my charts for a few minutes in the morning. Then if I need to, I can take my dad to the doctor's appointment. I can go shop at Costco. I can take the dogs for a walk, and I always have my phone with me that gives me the alerts. And if it's something that needs to be looked at right now, I can take 2 minutes and, pull my shopping cart over and make my trade or just check it to see if now's the time. But most days, for most of my trades are swing trades, I open up a whole row of charts and I click on this one and say, okay, is today the day? Nope. Is today the day? Nope. And I go through and I say, oh, wait a minute. This one looks like today might be the day. I'll keep an eye on this one. But for the rest of them, it takes about 5 or 10 minutes to just see, is today the day? And then you can just have your alert set, check it later, and you're good. You can go do something else for a while. And if that something else is keeping house, you can do that. If that something else is going to work in an office, you can do that. And yeah, these trades don't need to be babysat 24/7 unless you're doing Solana perps. Then those do need to be babysat 24/7.
Yeah. So, yeah, everybody can figure out the style and the approach that works for them. So, when you're working with people who are new to trading, what would you say are the most important things for them to learn first? Let's assume they've set up a brokerage, they've funded it. What do they do beyond that? What's the next step?
The next step would be making sure that you're investing in assets you believe in, or that you have enough information about that you want to hold long term, that you are choosing the right amount to be trading in. I'm always hearing allocations matter. You don't risk 100% of your portfolio to chase a trade. If you want to do trading to increase your assets or to harvest some profits, if you want to do options or whatever, you should only set aside 10 to 20% of your portfolio. I've heard some traders that don't even risk more than 2% of their portfolio because that's what they allocate for trading. The rest of that is for investing for long term, and you want to keep that safe. For me, I do put a limit of 20% of my entire portfolio that I do use to trade with. But in the beginnings, when I was very scared and didn't trust the signals yet, I wouldn't put more than 5% into a trade because I just had that risk aversion. I didn't want to risk all of it. So yeah, learn your risk tolerance and manage your trading and portfolios accordingly. That
Yeah.
would be my biggest, first step.
Yeah, that's very smart. Yeah, find the right assets to be in and then be careful. And I'm similar to you where it's about 20% that I'm swing trading with and the rest is a bit longer term hold positions. But
Okay.
then there are some charts that I've identified where it's super beaten up and everything looks good, like it's reversing, but I don't know the fundamentals of the company as well as I should. So it's like, okay, that's 1 to 2% at most for that, couple week swing trade. Um, just to help people think about position sizing. And I've seen a lot of folks get burned because they chase something on a chart where they think X is going to happen and it's going to be these big upsized returns, and they risk too much of their portfolio and then half of it's gone.
Oh, and when you say chase something, I've done all of that. I feel like I've made every mistake you can make in trading. I've made, and so this the second thing that I tell all the people that come to, I have the women's group. I have a Ask Me Anything group, which is more like office hours, a couple Saturdays a week too. But I tell everybody, ask the dumbest questions that you have because they're not dumb. If you think you're going to make a mistake, ask the question because I've made the mistakes, and don't feel like you're the only dumb one that makes these mistakes because if I've made them, thousands of other people have made those mistakes too. They just don't talk about it. So
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to talk about their fears and where they think they might stumble on these. And I'm usually pretty open about the stumbles I've made so that if it saves a couple people from making the same mistakes, I will throw it out there. No embarrassment, no regrets, no remorse. This is just the way it was. And you pick up from there and you just don't make the same mistakes again.
Yeah, I very much appreciate that you're open about that and not saying, "Oh, I have a perfect trading track record." It's important to realize that we're going to be wrong. Even the indicators are going to be wrong, even though they're stripped of emotion. It's like, they maybe have an 80% hit rate, and we're trying to stack the probabilities, but it's okay to make a mistake in trading. Like, we need to build a thesis and pick a side of the trade and think it's going to go one way, and you're not going to get it right every time. And one thing I like to use it just in my verbiage, this is just how I talk to myself, which might be a little bit silly, but I don't say I took a loss on the trade. I say, oh, that was an expense. Like, this is my job, what I'm doing day to day. A business has expenses, and that was the cost of doing business for me today. And hopefully I'll be more in profit tomorrow.
Now, one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made was thinking I cannot lose, that I don't want to lose, and not getting out of a trade before it went too far south. One of the biggest mistakes because I wanted to turn it around to be a win. And the thing is, you can't control the market price and make it turn around to be a win. It's just going to do what it does. And sometimes you're on the wrong side of that trade and you take your losses where you get them, you pick yourself up and you keep going.
Yeah.
You don't quit and you don't hang on to things for so long because of pride or because you love an asset or because of, you don't want to take a loss on something. Sometimes you just don't really have much of a choice but
Yeah.
to take that loss.
I think you touched on something very important there, which is humility. And I've seen that where people don't want to be wrong in their thesis and they stay in a trade for too long and the pain just keeps mounting and mounting. And it's like, I don't know if it's pride or a lack of humility or both, but it's better in that situation to just be able to recognize early, I was wrong. This is turning against me. And don't worry about the sunk cost. I mean, James talks about the sunk cost fallacy of like, no, I need to wait for this to turn around. But often it's
Yeah.
better to get out as soon as you can and move that into something that's going to be profitable sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, well, so if anybody's watching this who is maybe on the fence a little bit, like they've thought about dabbling in investing and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can take the reins and move this into a self-directed IRA, or if I can take my portfolio away from Schwab or Ameritrade or wherever it is and move it to a self-directed portfolio or something easier like Robinhood. What would you tell them to help overcome those doubts or fears they may have of taking that first step?
Well, one of the things that I do tell people is that you don't have to do that big thing right off the bat. If you're afraid of moving something from a stock brokerage managed IRA into a self-directed IRA, give yourself 3 months and start looking at, a regular brokerage. Put $10 into it and trade with $10 and see what you can make happen. I've given people homework assignments. Take one Solana and turn it into 1.5. If you can do that, you can turn 10 Solana into 10.5. Um, just watch the charts every day, and there are paper trading options that you can go into where in the paper trade they'll give you $100,000 of fake money, and you play in the real stock market with that fake money. See what you can do with that. And after 3 months, I think a lot of people can have the confidence to say, okay, now I'm going to move that institutionally directed, my retirement account, my money
Yeah.
into my control. And I'm going to be able to put the money where I think it needs to go. Because the people who are allocating those funds for you in a big retirement account, they aren't looking at your best interest. They are catering to salespeople who sell them mutual funds, who sell them bundles of equities, and who say, you'll get a commission if you put your employees' funds into these allocations, into our mutual funds, index funds. And so, it's not because they want you to have a happy retirement. They're making money along the way by using your money. And so if you can move it into a self-directed IRA, you're going to have more control over that. And I don't think you're going to do any worse than the people who are controlling it now. At least you have better intentions than the people who are doing it now. And if you learn and if you keep your eyes on the markets, you're going to be okay. Even if your eyes are only on the markets for 15 minutes a day, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think a good thing for people to realize too, those individuals, their goal isn't to maximize the growth of your portfolio, even if they would know, your exact position in life. Their goal is to be as safe and conservative as possible and not take losses. And approaching something from the stance of not taking losses is very different than trying to grow a nest egg.
Okay, so it's not all just about them making their profits and their
Yeah.
commissions. They do have to be very conservative because it's other people's money. But yeah, even in the funds, because we had our funds in aggressive growth, and our growth was not aggressive. I've seen aggressive growth now, and it's not bad.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
not really
I
keeping up
get
with
what
the basement most years, it feels like.
it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just a quick anecdote before we wrap up. I actually just had So when I used to live in California, one of the guys, very sweet guy, I don't want to throw him under the bus, and I hope he's not watching, but he was the worst with money that I knew. And he now started working at Edward Jones, and he just reached out and he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to find people who are looking for someone to manage their portfolio." And I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm good over here doing this on
I've
my own."
seen what you do. That's too funny.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Mops, is there anything else you want to say to folks who are new on their investment journey? Any word of encouragement or any other advice you'd like to give them?
Only that if somebody who was, who made every mistake in life, didn't go to college until she was 28, had kids early, had, just all kinds of things going against me, and didn't know a thing, didn't know a thing about money and finance and how money worked in the world. If I can take something, my life like that and turn it around with a little bit of focus, a little bit of fun, and be able to achieve what I achieved, I think a lot of people out there, a lot of you out there can do the same. It's not as hard as you think, but it does take a lot of discipline and it takes persistence. And if you can put those two things together, then I think investing, trading, all of those things are well within your capabilities. It can happen for you too.
I love that, and it can be a lot of fun. I think people don't assume that about this, but this is one of the most stimulating parts of my day is when I get to play in the markets.
Yeah.
And as someone with a creative background, if you would have asked me 15 years ago, I would have said you're crazy.
I keep crayons at my desk.
Yeah.
It's not like I was always a techie computer person, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I definitely am still having a lot of fun with this.
That's great. So where can people go to find you if they want to learn more or book a class with you?
Oh, I actually have it's Calendly, like calendar, but it's CALENDLY.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put a forward slash and MopBot's workshop on there, you'll be able to find me.
Okay.
Um,
Well, text me the link and
Website
I'll put
not
it in the
enough yet.
text description too, so people can just
Okay,
click
all
through.
right, thank you. Thank you. Because yeah, I've been so busy, I haven't even had the time to put that website together yet. And I keep meaning to, but I haven't. But
Well, you
that's
have the logo with your avatar already.
I do.
All right.
But thanks for having me and thanks for this awesome conversation. I
Mops,
really
thank
enjoyed it.
you so much for making the time. I truly appreciate it. And I hope, I know if folks watch this, that this will be an inspiration for them and hopefully will get them to take that next step.
Yes.